I'm gonna allow mic and camera for everyone.
Great.
Hi, everyone who's just joined. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll give it a minute just to let some last minute people admit, then we'll get started. Hi, Richard. Sorry, you're on mute, but I can read your lips. I think you said hi.
I did.
All right, let's get a few more people in. Hi, Murdad.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Keep thinking it's the morning. Almost said good morning. Yes, good afternoon. Okay, let's get started just so we stick to time and whoever comes in can join us. But yeah, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. We're going to cover a few things today, looking at Digital, which we'll go into further detail in a minute. Lisa's got an update about our typical competence profiles and how the SIGs are kind of getting involved. We're going to look at our volunteer survey that we just ran a couple weeks ago and kind of compare that with our March survey. Bit of a branch review update because there's been some progress throughout the past 6 months or so, or more actually, and then we'll end it with a discussion about webinar platforms and network events. So we've got a bit of a chat between us all. I'll start with Digital. So some of you may have noticed we've kind of got a refresh to our emails and comms being sent from the CQI. So it's a new communication email platform, which has given us, as I said, a fresh look to our emails and comms. I put a little snippet of an email that I've sent recently for an upcoming SIG event, just to give you probably would have seen a bunch of emails because we've got lots of events happening lately, but just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So it just allows us to be a bit more engaging and interactive, and it has much more functionality, and it's a lot easier to use both from the receiver and for us as senders. So it just gives us as well more user insights such as open rates and click-through, and we can see location and pull heat maps and stuff. So it's really great and we're excited about it. So just a little notice, if you do get some emails from us from this platform, if you could add the the 2 email addresses I put on the screen there to your safe sender list, just to ensure that you don't miss any communications from us. So that's Digital. And I'm just going to hand over briefly to Lisa to give an update on our TCPs.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to briefly just let you know about a side project to the big project on the typical competence profile mapping. You may have probably heard it in different comms about this project, but it's basically mapping out the different competencies across different quality roles within the profession. And looking at 18 components, including the profession map and sort of mapping typical competencies based on that. So this is like an example of a quality manager profile. And it outlines the most common rating for each component, illustrates areas where quality managers have highest tiers of competence or higher tiers of competence, sorry, and outlines the tiers that may require more developments or maybe tiers that are not really required for that role. So the objectives behind this project was to pair agreed and externally verified role profiles for quality professionals to create recognizable, sort of meaningful and feasible career pathways. So Alex and the policy team have kind of completed that phase of the project. And now we kind of want to understand how these profiles apply to different industries. So we want to kind of, if you move on to the next slide, please, Sam. We want to kind of seek knowledge, experience, and expertise based on industry-specific profiles. So we are looking at the SIGs that we have, because we thought, why not start with existing volunteers that are within the SIGs. So we're looking at the construction, rail, defence, nuclear, pharmaceutical, and renewable energy to ask the committees to help us map these profiles against industry, for us to understand how they compare between different industries, and how people can maybe potentially either transition from one industry to another, and what kind of competencies they need to move across that path. So I've raised this with SIGs at the last SIG chairs meeting. I've had interest from a couple of SIGs who want to support with this project. But I just wanted to let you guys know. Sorry, there's a bit of an echo. I just wanted to let you guys know that if you are in any of these industries listed and you would like to take part in this project, please do reach out to us, and we can let you know how you can get involved. It's really more your insights and your experience within your given industries that we would value as part of this phase of the project.
So who would we speak to get involved?
Us, me. I can I'm sort of coordinating this side of the project. Sorry, who was it that asked that? I'm just.
Oh, Shankar.
Oh, hello. Hi, Shankar.
Hi there. Yeah. Okay. So just email you then.
Yeah, if you email branches equality.org, sigs@equality.org, or volunteering@equality.org, and also my, you can of course email me directly. I will put that in the chat after my bit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And if you move on to the slide, so good question, Jill. We're going to start off with these sectors and see how this side of the project goes before we do look at other industries. But I think it will be remiss of us not to consider, all of the industries involved within the member base. But yes, this is sort of a starting point. Yeah, no, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, you didn't miss much. Sorry, we kind of went into it shortly after one, just so we didn't waste any time. But we just gave an update on .digital, but I was just going to say we'll circulate the slides and recording to everyone and all the volunteers as well who couldn't make it, so that everyone's got a copy and caught up. But welcome. Thanks, Lisa. So we'll move on to, unless there's any other questions quickly on that. Great. Okay, so we'll move on to our volunteer survey.
Yes, we just wanted to kind of remind you of what happened last time earlier in the year with our volunteer survey. We ran a sort of typical MPS style survey, but using different methods. So we wanted to reach you by text as well as over the phone. If you remember from our last sort of update on the survey, we had a decent response rate. So 42% of you responded. The MPS was a little bit on the low side for various different reasons. If you would like to show the themes that we identified in the feedback, Sam. So you can just list them all. So we wanted to, we wanted to address some of the themes that we identified, but just before I just wanted to list that your feedback was that you wanted us to improve on the way that we communicate and we facilitate communication for you with other members. We wanted to have more face-to-face networking, have more frequent meetings within your committee. Some of you expressed that the committee was a little bit disconnected. You let us know that you wanted more contact with us as well, and for us to attend your meetings a bit more often. You also gave us some feedback around wider promotions of activities and events. So you were concerned about member engagement at your events, and you wanted to have more collaboration between other volunteers and other networks as well. and you expressed that there was a bit of a lack of overall kind of unity between the different networks and wanted to kind of connect a bit more as you kind of shared similar interests with other volunteers. There was also a big piece from our branch volunteers about reviewing the branches, that the way that we've been working did work at the beginning of sort of COVID, but as things are now changing, we may need to take a different approach to how we run our branches. To address these themes that were identified, we want to go to the next slide, Sam. A lot of text, I apologize, but we kind of wanted to list out sort of some of the steps that we've taken towards addressing some of the feedback that you gave us. So when it comes to communication with members, and sort of communications of your activities, we've wanted to find ways of improving the way that we market your events. And so Digital will help us a lot with that. You would have seen that we've also improved the way that members view our events on the website. The events calendar has been improved. But with Digital, as Sam mentioned earlier, we're really excited about this platform because it will enable us to it has a heat mapping tool embedded in it where we can map members. So that kind of enables us to better see where people are living, and that helps with planning for in-person events. So you can choose a location where you feel a lot of members will be able to access. And we also have other processes that we've changed. So we're using the Quality Learning Hub a lot more to upload your webinars, and the way that your webinars are featured on the Quality Learning Hub has sort of been improved. The way that we structure we edit and structure your webinars. We also have looked at ways that you get feedback. There was a drop in post-event feedback. So we have started just putting in a poll within the actual webinar or just after the webinar. So on Zoom, there's a functionality now where as soon as the meeting ends, a new browser will pop up with requesting feedback, so people can give feedback almost immediately, and they're more likely to provide feedback. We in terms of communication between volunteers and staff, we have things like we've been kind of following up with you a bit more often, attending more of your meetings. We developed like a staff directory on the resources page, and sorry, there's like an echo. Hearing myself back in real time.
Yeah, I'm just muting participants at the moment while you're speaking. Right. So if we could just, go
on. We also have, I think that's that communication part covered for now. But as I said, this is a work in progress, and we do want to make more of an effort to for you to know who to contact for what reason when it comes to the staff that we have and how they can support you. Obviously, we're your first point of contact, but we have you're open to sort of see who is in with who manages each team and who can support. For example, what the membership team can support you with, providing support with the regrade webinars, for example. So that's, if you check out the volunteer resources page, you'll be able to see sort of the CPY staff directory, which was added a few months ago. We also, in terms of connecting your networks, combining branches and SIGs, allowing you to collaborate with each other. We did a workshop back in May, and we will continue to do that every single year, an in-person workshop where we bring all the chairs together from branches and SIGs to discuss various things, from the challenges across our networks, opportunities that you see on the horizon, as well as any kind of opportunities to sort of collaborate between each other can be discussed in these workshops. So it went really well last time, so we are going to continue with that. We also have a shared activity smart sheet, and we have sort of created an area within this within the Teams channel for chairs to sort of input their upcoming plans. So there's visibility across different networks of what you're planning, and the hope is to get more, so for you to be able to identify opportunities to collaborate with each other. So please do have a look, speaking to the chairs mainly, please do have a look at that and speak to your committee to see what you want to populate within that shared activity, Smartsheet. And then lastly, in terms of the branch review project, we have been progressing well with that. We now have a branch review panel. Sam is going to share sort of the project plan that we have with this in a few slides time. But we're really excited about the new kind of vision for our branches and having volunteers with us to sort of support us on this journey with this panel that we have. I think it would be really helpful to have them kind of continue to support us and carry us through this. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the actions that we've taken, and Sam will now kind of give you an update on the current survey that we did in September and what feedback you gave on that and the actions that we're going to take based on your feedback.
Thanks, Lisa. With regard to the feedback, just to address the comment in the chat, we've been trialing surveys within Zoom, which when you close the Zoom application, it pops up in the browser straight after the event. We've just been doing that recently to see how feedback improves, and we've got more responses through that functionality. So we're just trying different things. Hopefully in the near future with Quality Learning Hub, we'll be able to get the in-platform functionality for feedback as well. So we are exploring different options to try and improve how we get feedback. So yeah, we'll trial stuff out and see what works and how we can improve that. Yes, so moving on to our current survey that we just did recently, just click that. The overall satisfaction has improved since the beginning of the year, as Lisa demonstrated, which is really great. Obviously, it's really hard to kind of compare this survey with the March 1 apples to apples, as they were slightly different in their nature and their format. This was more of a deep dive survey and looked at some other areas as well. But if we look at the specific NPS satisfaction element of it, we see an improvement in the volunteer satisfaction. So we do hope to kind of keep improving the score, especially as we see developments through the branch review. We can even break this down further between our branches and our SIGs specifically. So we had more responses from our SIG volunteers than our branch volunteers. We did see a higher satisfaction rate within our SIG groups. This obviously does have an impact in that obviously the SIGs, you can see there's more responses, so obviously that might be a bit higher of the NPS score. But it is interesting because it does highlight the issues that we're seeing with our branches and the branch networks at the moment, particularly with engagement and our branches going inactive. And this is what our branch review hopes to address. So we do hope that we see this score improve and also engagement and responses. So yeah, lots of good things still to come. But just to cover some of the key themes that came out of this survey this time round, slightly different from the round in March. Obviously, communication, that's a big one that did come up in March as well, but this is more specifically via the website on and from the website to our members. So something we can work with our marketing teams and membership teams on. We hope to improve this in kind of early mid next year by cleaning up our volunteer pages, including the branch and SIG pages, and helping these be a little bit more clear with clearer guidance to the visitor and those who are looking to volunteer as well. There was some feedback around helping with succession planning in our networks, which we completely understand and we've noticed as well. We do hope to address this as part of our branch review, which I am going to go into more detail later on, but it is one of the topics that we're looking at with that panel. There's also some responses around more volunteering opportunities, more flexible volunteering opportunities in more areas. This was more directed toward our branches, where there's some regions where we've got inactive branches. So this is also something that we're going to address with the branch review panel, which again, I'll show you in more detail in a moment. There was a theme about resources, so getting them out there more from the SIGs specifically. Sharing resources to help volunteers in a specific role as well. To help with this, we're looking at launching a content management system kind of mid next year, roughly. This is a place where we can host all of our content that's kind of scattered amongst the members area, the development sections, which will help signpost easier, especially where we have reports and papers and stuff like that that are being developed by the SIGs. As for volunteer resources, we are going to be updating them in line with the implementation of our branch review as well. Lisa has already done some work to update the volunteer expense policy with up-to-date links to relevant sources as well. So we're doing some work there. It just may take a bit of time. There was quite a big theme around more support. So while our volunteers had great things to say about the support that they're getting from us and PNET, but also CQI as a whole, which was greatly appreciated, so thank you, there was some request for further support, specifically where promotion of events is concerned. So we will look at getting some more support in this function, as well as our new .digital platform we've mentioned earlier, which will help us wider promote events and draw in more registrations. But we are aware that that's an area that we need to address. So that just highlighted that for us. So yeah, really good things coming out of these surveys. We really appreciate all the feedback and responses we get, because it really does help shape your volunteering experience and help us improve that. So we do appreciate you inputting your time and thoughts into that. As we kind of look into the survey in more depth, we might be sharing some more results from that, particularly in our newsletter. So do keep an eye out for communications from us on that. Are there any questions before I move on to branch review stuff? Just check the chat. Thanks, Rashad. Really appreciate the gift there. Okay, well, I'll move on. We can have some time for questions at the end as well. Or you can always reach out to us afterwards too if you don't have a question during. Okay, so just to give an update on where we left off with the branch review. So a while ago, you may have remembered that we gave a brief update on where we were at. At the time, we had just held our chair workshop between our branch and SIG chairs, where we discussed the proposed model we wanted to take forward and ideas and the structure, and kind of hashed those out. But since then, a lot has been happening. So I'm going to take you through kind of where we've been since. So through the beginning of the year, we did quite a lot of work on feedback gathering, feedback from our volunteers, our members, within our internal staff. So we did a lot of work on just trying to get as much feedback as we can. Between May and June, this was obviously when we had our chair workshop. So we kind of brainstormed the feedback and the ideas that we were getting from this feedback, and kind of came up with some further ideas that we kind of narrowed down and tried to pinpoint into a model or restructure that we think will work. So given all the feedback and ideas and discussions that we had, we kind of brought this together into a report. And we presented that report to our governance and risk committee, where they approved it in August. So that means that they allowed us to move on with the next steps of the review and to continue kind of hashing out the details and getting more specific about what this actually looks like. So this is where we've created our branch review advisory panel, which Lisa briefly mentioned. I don't think we've actually got our volunteers from the panel in today's session, which is strange because they're always here, but they're doing a lot for us. There'll be more mentioned throughout on that, but yeah, we're really grateful for their input on that. but they're going to help us work through all the details. Obviously, we'll be consulting with more volunteers in our networks and CQI staff as well. So there is still opportunity to get involved and help us out and shape this further. But that leads me to sort of the next steps in the branch review. So we've met a few times with the branch review panel. We've already had some really good workshops, and we've discussed what we need to do, the activities we need to do, the tasks, the specific things that need to be looked at, and in what order. So Kevin Newey, who's on our panel, he greatly and amazingly created this project plan just to demonstrate where we need to go. There's a lot on here, and this is obviously just the wider concepts. We've got loads of sort of detail that we have to work through. But it just gives us the sort of map that allows us to kind of make sure that we're on track and sticking to the things that we need to look at and when. So we prioritize them based on what needs to be done before something else can be completed. We've Kevin categorized these into the admin stuff, governance and assurance, where we need to define things and create solutions, resource and systems that we need in order to make some of these things happen, understanding the data that we have and making sure that we're measuring the success through that, and obviously the implementation and communication stages that we will hopefully get to at some point. But it's a journey, not a sprint. So we appreciate everyone's patience and cooperation and feedback as we go through it, because we don't want to rush anything. We want to ensure that it's robust and fit for purpose. So we'll continue updating you as we progress through the journey. So watch this space, as they say. But really excited about it, and we're doing things to make branches better and improved, and hopefully this has an impact on all of our networks and volunteering experience. So thanks to our branch review advisory panel who's not here today, but hopefully they'll see the recording. So thank you. But yeah, we'll be further communicating through this. Any questions on that before we move to discussion?
Is it worth giving them a shout out by name?
I'm just laughing at Rashad's gifts today. You're on point, Rashad. Yes. So we've got Suzanne Hill, who's on our branch panel, Jonathan Bishop, Kevin Newey, Mark Elms, who came over from Scotland to join one of our workshops, which is greatly appreciated. So he made the journey. And just to say as well, we're meeting up once a month, and then every other month we'll meet in person and have like a full day workshop to hash through these things. So there's going to be lots of work to be done as we go through it, and lots of testing and piloting throughout. So we may be calling on some extra volunteers if we need your help. Great. Well, that leaves us to a discussion time, which we all love. We're hoping to have a bit of a discussion about our webinar platforms that we currently use for our network events and webinars. The intention is to move toward a single platform for the use of our network events. So at the moment, we're using Teams meetings, Teams webinars, Zoom meetings, Zoom webinars to facilitate these. We have Katie joining us as well as events manager. So she has experience using Zoom in particular for running our CQI hosted events. So she's here to kind of help us be more consistent across our event processes and ensuring we're bringing that in line more closely. Hi, Katie. Thanks for joining. So I want to open the floor, or we want to open the floor out to all of you and ask, what is your preferred platform and why? So more thinking about Teams and Zoom specifically, and having a think about what features about that preferred platform you like and why, and also the reasons behind that preferred platform. So is it a lack of training or knowledge or familiarity, or maybe you use a particular platform because you use that at work. We just want to understand a bit more as to why you like using a certain platform for hosting events and how we can kind of improve that. So I'm going to open the floor out to you guys. And I'm on mute because my dog is barking a lot, so hopefully you can't hear him. But any thoughts on this from anyone?
Tim, I can see you've got your hand up. Please feel free to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. Oh, yeah. Just in general, I don't particularly have a preferred platform. I mainly use Zoom and Teams, and they seemingly have very similar functionality. But I think what I value most is platforms that have functionality that encourages engagement with the listeners, and and possibly uses that. What I mean to say is things like running surveys and polls is a good thing, but even going further than that, having breakout rooms and things like that, because actually it's not a bad idea to try and go down that route of really getting engagement by having the odd breakout when you're doing training and things like that. So I think it's more about making sure you've got the right functionality to fit, rather than necessarily the particular platform. Hope that helps.
Thanks for that, Tim. Yeah, that is really helpful to understand. That you regularly sort of use Zoom and Teams. I'm guessing you're fairly familiar with both of them.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
But you remember, Lisa, we did a presentation recently, and I was very keen that we had some kind of survey in between, and I wasn't actually aware that you could do that with Zoom, but you were able to provide that facility, which was great.
Yeah. As you mentioned, like the platforms are very similar. They just maybe feature things differently, but they do have a lot of the same functionality.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Tim. Thank you for that. And just to some of the comments, Rashad uses both platforms, both are good, but I think Zoom has better interface with a bigger audience. I think we've noticed that as well. Zoom has just a bit more functionality when you're doing a bigger webinar that we can utilize, and a better, I think, easier to control as well. I guess if you use it for work, because that's an interesting point, or if you use a particular platform for work specifically, would you be open to trying other platforms as well if we provided training? So if we had drop-in training sessions, so if you're familiar with Teams, would you appreciate a Zoom drop-in training with us? That might help get used to that. I think that was a thumbs up from you, so that's hopefully a positive. And using Teams for work. Yeah, if you use one platform for work too, I understand it can be, you kind of use it the same one for other things. And also there's an issue of accessibility. So some work laptops restrict certain logins. So I think Microsoft Teams, because it's licensed, there's some tricky accessibility issues there, and restricting use of Zoom as well. So these are interesting comments and insights that we're getting, which is really good because it might help us understand if we do need to provide some training sessions for you guys to provide more support. And Katie can help us on that as well, just from the events side of things, to make sure that we're all consistent. Lots of comments in the chat, which is brilliant. So as long as it works consistently for everyone. Let's reading through. Zoom needs to constantly update, so you always have to remember to sign in ahead of events, which is interesting. And when you don't update, you lose function. Yeah, Zoom does have, you do need to update that quite a bit. So we'll have to look at that. But yeah, it's just interesting. We did ask this question in our volunteer satisfaction survey as well, just because we were interested in seeing sort of the makeup between Teams and Zoom and what our networks prefer. Because at the moment it is a bit, we're kind of all over the place with going into Zoom and going into Teams and pulling reports from both areas and recordings. And we want to make sure that it's in one place so that we can easily pull reports and stuff like that as well. Any other feedback or comments on that? Aside from the chat, if anyone wants to unmute.
Sam, do you want me to share a little bit of our thinking behind this?
Yeah, sure. That would be, yes, thanks.
Because I think the comments are really interesting, and I agree there's obviously a real difference between hosting a session online as a meeting and hosting a session online as a webinar.
True.
So we, when I first joined the CQI 3 years ago, we were using the GoTo platform. So there was GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar, which we agreed was not fit for purpose. And at the time that we decided to move across to Zoom, which, as Sam said, is what we use to host all of our centrally hosted webinars, there wasn't, yes, boo to GoTo. Thank you for that endorsement, Rashad. But we moved over to Zoom because there wasn't such a function as Teams webinar. So that was our kind of, we did the research, the due diligence around what other platforms there were, and Zoom was the most suitable option at that time. We were obviously just coming off the back of the pandemic. This is 2022, so Zoom was kind of very commonplace. We know that there are challenges with Zoom, and somebody, I think Chris, you mentioned in the chat there that there are some companies who do restrict Zoom usage, and there are also some countries that restrict Zoom usage. So that is something that we are aware of. There are pros and cons to both platforms, and I think what we were interested to understand, because we moved to Zoom because that was the best option at the time, we would like to encourage our network events and our central events to have a more unified look and feel, and using the same platform is part of that. So, but rather than us saying, right, we use Zoom, so now you all have to use Zoom, we want to understand, well, what are the pros of using Teams? What are the cons? What would you like the functionality to include? So that we can actually look at what the best option is at this point. I think for us, one of there's kind of two key things, which is why we would probably prefer to continue Zoom, but happy to keep that conversation open. The first is, Tim, like you said, there's a lot of scope for engagement. There's polls that you can do, there's the whiteboard function. You can do breakouts if you set it up as a meeting. You can't do breakouts if you set it up as a webinar. So that is something that we know is a bit of a sticking point, because it means that you can only have breakouts up to a certain number of attendees. One of the biggest things, and again, this came up in the chat, Ian, I think you've posted it, is the feedback function. So Zoom has you can set up all sorts of surveys, but we have an automated feedback survey. So when somebody goes to leave the webinar, pops up in their browser, we can collect an NPS, we can collect a what did you like, we can collect a what can we do better. And since we've introduced that to our webinars, the feedback has, the kind of amount of feedback that we've got has tripled. So it makes it a lot better in terms of our kind of continuous improvement, knowing what we're doing well, knowing where we need to improve. So that's a really big tick in the pro box, if you like, for Zoom, which at the moment Teams doesn't have as a functionality. So that's just kind of some of the thinking for us as to why we are using Zoom at the moment. But yeah, that's partly, as part of our sort of strategy under the professional development function, which is still a relatively new function for the CQI. We're trying to bridge the gap between the work and the events that I do and the work and the events that sit underneath PNET, because ultimately they are all CQI and ERCA events. We want to be able to promote them all, encourage really good engagement with our membership. There's so much great stuff happening. So part of that is trying to move towards a more consistent look and feel across the board, of which the platform discussion is a big part of that. So I hope that helps. I've seen messages flashing up, but I've tried not to look at them because I'm so bad at getting led off on a tangent. So I'll have a quick skim. But yeah, if anybody wanted to comment off the back of that, then happy to hear what anybody has to say.
Thanks, Katie. That's really useful. I think you kind of captured that really well. So thanks for chipping in. Emma, your hand is up.
I hope not with a question, Emma, because we talk all the time.
It's not a question, more of just a little addendum from an e-learning perspective. Hi everybody. I don't know if everyone knows me, but I'm the e-learning manager, so I'm looking after the QLH at the moment. Obviously, as Sam mentioned earlier, a lot more webinars are moving on to the QLH at the moment. And just with regards to this conversation, certainly a benefit from my side of using Zoom would be that it's actually very easy to save the chat that happens during the event in Zoom. In Teams, it seems to be virtually impossible to be able to get that chat out, and we would love to be able to, if there's like a really sort of good rich conversation going on in the chat, we would love to be able to include that on the QLH when we put the recordings there as well. But there's no way to do that with Teams, so I just wanted to sort of throw my hat into the ring there in favour of Zoom as well.
Thanks, Emma. That's really appreciated. Yeah, that's a really good point to note. Yeah, just another way that you can engage with the content in the QLH. Yeah, I think everyone can agree that GoToWebinar is not going to come back. So don't worry, we're not going to reintroduce that option. No, that's brilliant. Thanks all. If there's anything else, any questions from any of our updates as well, feel free to put up your hand or pop them in. Otherwise, we can give you some time back and finish your working days, as I know everyone's really busy. So I'll just see if we've got any other kind of last minute questions or comments. Silence. Oh, Rashad, hi.
Hello.
Hello, hi everyone. Good to see you all, and thanks guys for the update. That's really good. I have one question, please. I've noticed some of the events have been loaded onto YouTube, the CQI's YouTube channel, and I would like to understand the difference. When do I go to the YouTube channel for some of the content, and when do I go to the Quality Learning Hub, if possible?
Is that the Careers Week events that you're talking about there, Rashad? Yeah. I will defer to my esteemed colleague Emma, who is the gatekeeper of all things Learning Hub and has a very much better explanation than what I have. Yeah.
That sounds almost threatening. Really, it just comes down to, what we're trying to include on the Quality Learning Hub are things with a CPD value, essentially. So that's the primary thing that we're looking at. There's obviously a whole host of other things that kind of affect what will end up on the Quality Learning Hub, but the main difference between what goes onto YouTube and the Quality Learning Hub is that CPD value. So if there's things that we feel it's more beneficial to make available to like the wider audience, things that are potentially kind of like promoting things that the CQI do, or that essentially tell them about important things like the mentoring platform or the Quality Careers Hub that was happening last week, then that is on YouTube, because there's no gatekeeping to come back to YouTube. Whereas if it's kind of CPD content that our members will find valuable, then that's when it ends up on the Quality Learning Hub, essentially. So that's the very basic definition, and then there's just other layers of decisions under that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Appreciate that. Good question, Rashad. Make Emma think to this afternoon. Put her on her feet. Great. Anything else? Think. Yeah, thanks, Ian. Did you hear him barking in the background? I think that's a sausage dog trait. Happy to take this discussion to dogs, but I feel like we'll lose some people. But we might have to take that offline because I want to see your dog.
There we go. There's one of them.
Yeah, they're quite loud and vocal. So, oh my gosh, Katie, don't. We'll just get into a whole other topic here. Oh, Chris has asked a question in the chat. How will the CQI encourage the use of the volunteer logs and feed the logs into CPD? In terms of volunteer logs, do you mean kind of recording volunteering hours or the CPD part with regard to your volunteering? Yes, hours, I think. So there is a functionality in IMIS at the moment in your members area, in the volunteering area, to record hours. But at the moment, we do realize the functionality there isn't amazing and intuitive and kind of user-friendly. We're going through a kind of CRM project at the CQI, which is quite big and extensive, and hopefully this will allow us to bring in a bit of that functionality that's a lot more user friendly, because I think it would be really good to record hours and use that as a way, as well as recognition of volunteers and celebrating the time and work that you guys all put into your volunteering. So we will be kind of looking at that with our CRM project. And the membership will kind of look at the CPD logs as well, so that it can all kind of work together. So hopefully that will be improved when we move to our new CRM, but that's a little bit further down the line at the moment. Thanks for the question. Katie, that's my lunchtime read this afternoon. Thank you very much.
The reading, seeing as you're going to be giving people a few minutes back in case that anybody was interested.
True. That's a really good point. Yeah. CPD and all that. Great. Any others before I officially close today's meeting? Happy lunching, you too, Rashad. Enjoy the article. All right, well, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much, everyone, to attending. As always, we really appreciate seeing you all and interacting with you. And hopefully see you at our next one. Hi, Tim, on camera as well. Good to see you. Hopefully we'll see you at our next one in December, date to be confirmed, but we, as usual, will hope to add a little bit of a kind of fun Christmas holiday element into it. Maybe Gareth will do a quiz again, looking at Gareth. But yeah, so look out for that. It'd be great to have you all there, have a bit of fun with each other. I know I said the Christmas word, but it's coming, so sorry. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Enjoy the reading that Katie provided, and we will speak to you all very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
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 Hello. Hello. Are you hearing me?
Hi, Nicholas.
Hi, Nicholas.
All right. Good afternoon. I really enjoyed every bit, every moment, every word. But,
Oh, good. I'm glad.
What is happening to me, unfortunately, I have been with ERCA for almost